Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Agent podcast today. Listeners, I'm so excited to introduce my great friend and superstar real estate agent, Mr. David Nygaard. David's got quite the extensive background in business ownership and entrepreneurship, and he's brought that now into the real estate world. He's former Virginia Business Owner of the Year. He's built multiple businesses and has quite the story. And not only that, a great friend. I'm excited about having this opportunity to chat. David, welcome to the show today.
Hey, thanks so much, Paul. Love being able to chat with you. We always have some good conversations. So I'm looking forward to answering some questions and just having that dialogue.
Yeah, awesome. So we're going to dig into your real estate venture and what's going on there. I know you've got a lot of exciting things happening there. But before we do that, I know you've had kind of we all have a little bit of a twisty road to get where we are now. Anyone who's got a few grays in their hair like you and I both do.
Well, highlights.
Yeah, highlights, right. Tell us a little bit about your experience, how you got to real estate and your business experience, because you have a very extensive background there.
Well, my first venture in real estate was when I was in high school. My parents got me hooked when we bought a small apartment complex at the oceanfront Virginia Beach, and that got me hooked into real estate investing. And so I've always had kind of an interest there. We kept that apartment, and I basically was the rental manager all through college, and it helped me pay my way through college. That's really how I started. I more recently got back into it. Just a friend of mine was a broker, and they suggested, "Hey, with your business background, this might be something that you'd really enjoy." I was on the Virginia City Council briefly, and after I left that position, I was kind of looking for a second mountain to climb, and had decided to just try my hand at real estate back into that. And that was a few years ago. And prior to that, I ran a fairly decent sized jewelry chain that I grew from the beginning to 7 stores, about 12 million a year with 7 employees. And so we were pretty busy with that. And so I just kind of had a variety there. I taught entrepreneurship at Chowan University. I was involved with the entrepreneurship program at College of William and Mary and Regent University. And so I've been involved in entrepreneurship and, working with small business owners for a long time now. So.
Wow, that's quite a background. I had no idea about your first foray into real estate with your parents and the multi-unit property.
Yep.
So that paid for your college, huh?
My college, absolutely. Yeah.
Wow. So that's a great experience. And did they sell that unit after college, or what happened with that?
We sold it about a year after college, and I bought my first car with the proceeds, my fortune proceeds. I had gotten a small inheritance from my grandfather, and my parents were investing, and they offered me the opportunity to take a small percentage. And so just to try to, I guess, just to teach me about investing in real estate and so forth. And so that's how I got involved. So I had maybe 5%. So we weren't talking a lot of money, but it gave me a lot of experience kind of cutting my teeth out.
Wow, that is a great experience. Early lessons on learning how to operate it, learning how to collect a rent, deal with issues from tenants, and that sort of thing. As the young man, and wow, that's great. And so you've had the other businesses. So you built a jewelry business quite successfully. I know that I've actually gotten some pieces from, or my wife has, from you over the years, and she totally enjoyed those and loves them. So tell us about.
Let me add one more thing. I also am a Society of Appraiser member, and so I'm USPAP qualified and an appraisal expert as well. So that has also served me pretty well in working with some of my clients in terms of addressing just appraisal issues that we've had.
So the appraisal experience in the gemological world translates over into the real estate world?
It sure does, because we're members of the same societies. We have to follow the same guidelines under the uniform standard professional appraisal practice. And just because I'm a part of those societies and a part of that requirement, I have a lot of commonality with the appraisers. In fact, just recently on a project we were working, it was a commercial project, and we were trying to come up with value. And I ended up putting together a income stream approach, because they tell us that we're supposed to have 3 approaches to value. And the income stream approach was the one that got us the highest value on this particular property. So because I am familiar with that, I was able to put that together for the appraiser and help them along with, getting the end result we want.
And the end result turned out in your favor, in your client's favor, I'm assuming.
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting. So you're deep insight there, and I think you mentioned to me before. I believe that you're a master gemologist, right? So I mean, you really know the ins and outs when you go into something like that.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. So okay, so you mentioned a commercial transaction. So where is your area of focus in the real estate space in terms of representing clients today?
I'd say really my sweet spot is small business owners who are either looking for personal residence or commercial property that I can help them find the right property, and or negotiating or put together a deal, that we need to put together to be able to make something make sense. And then of course they like personal residencies. And so I'm able to help them, with a house, either selling or buying, usually selling their old house and buying a new one, or if they want to rent it out, I help them out with that as well. So
Yeah, I find that most small business owners, entrepreneurs, they have extra cash, right? I mean, the business is generating cash, and so you want to do something with the cash, and obviously, real estate's a great way to hedge, for the future, as we both know. And I know you and I've talked a lot about, and you've helped multiple clients achieve this idea of, hey, I'm a business owner. And a lot of business owners today don't necessarily require a physical location. The world has changed a little bit, but a lot still do, right?
absolutely, absolutely. From warehouses to to that restaurant, it's better to own your building than renting it. I'm working with an HVAC contractor right now, and he's renting a small space, and he would really do well to be able to purchase a building,
Yeah.
and build well.
Yeah. What would you say some of the key benefits there are to actually, if the entrepreneur, to actually buy the space that you're renting?
Well, I think you have more control over it. You're going to control your expenses over the long term instead of the short term. When you've got a 5-year lease, they always hit you the bill up, big time on the 6th year. You want to extend it. They usually require remodeling and things of that nature too. And so, why not put your money into your own rent and own the building and build wealth that way. So your business is generating cash flow instead of paying rent, pay your mortgage, let your business pay for that as if it were rent. And then you've got two sources of wealth that you're building at the same time.
Absolutely. I'm a huge advocate of that. And I have a friend, a client as well, that bought her own building. She's in the medical space, and she bought a building about 13 years ago. And so her practice has been paying on this building for that period of time, which she paid it off recently. Well, the other cool thing that's happened sort of simultaneously is, how medical practices are being acquired by these larger medical groups, right? So she was recently approached. She's kind of eyeing retirement a couple of years downstream. And they basically bought her out. And so she got that. She's still working there for the last several years before she retires, but they rent the building from her that she owns. And so she's got this amazing cash flow on a paid, free and clear building that, she can keep as long as she wants until they offer her some amount of money, some egregious amount of money, right? That's too good to turn down.
Yeah, and she's in the driver's seat because if she wants to sell, she has a existing client that's in that building. So that's a guaranteed revenue stream, easy to finance for a buyer. You've got something there. And if they want to buy it themselves, I mean, she's in the driver's seat because it's really in their best interest to buy the building and not have to move and resell. Anytime you move, you lose a good portion of your business. So
Right. Right. That's huge. So I just think it's an amazing thing. And I know you helped a client that he has a small trucking business, bought a warehouse.
he sure did. He sure did. That was an interesting situation because I was the selling agent. And when I got the property to market, I had talked to some different, commercial guys, and they were like, "Oh, you can never get, you know, this much money for this property." And I said, "Well, my seller needs to get this to get out of this property." And so I kept the deal. I didn't farm it out to another commercial guy and say, "I'm going to go ahead and keep it myself." And I started contacting friends of mine who are CPAs and attorneys in the area. I said, "Hey, do you have any clients that might be interested in the warehouse?" Well, sure enough, I had a hit. And then they said, "Oh yeah, this particular fellow." And he had been pre-approved with a local bank, town bank, and they wanted 20% down 5-year variable rate and bank covenants. And they had only approved him for 1.2, which was well under what we were trying to sell this property for. So I said to him, and the other agent wasn't particularly helpful. So, so I don't think the other agent even showed up to show the building. I think
No kidding.
no kidding. And so I asked the buyer if I could help him put together a finance package for him. And so we were able to, and that's kind of actually where he came in, is we put together a nice finance package for him. I got him approved at 1.6, 10% down, and I think it was 25-year fixed with no bank covenants, which is a huge plus for him with a banking, with a trucking company. So he was thrilled. The sellers were thrilled. Everybody was thrilled, and we were able to put together a really good deal for that particular client.
Well, David, that strikes close to home for me, and I know it does you too, because being an entrepreneur and a business owner your entire life, and you've created these businesses, and you relate to these particular owners, right? There's a lot going on. Like you and I both had experiences where we're wondering, where's the money going to come from payroll on Friday, right? We've had these experiences like, oh my gosh, I don't really want to go into the office today because I've got these issues that I have to deal with. And on the flip side, you've got these opportunities where, man, life's going great. So you see it all on the entrepreneurial side, right? You're really living.
And we sure do. And I think entrepreneurs kind of have a different way of being liars. And one thing I think that we're really good at is turning over rocks and saying what's underneath them, right?
Yeah.
Those rocks often have a lot of opportunities. And most people aren't even curious about what's underneath these rocks that we wander by. But, most entrepreneurs are like, let's see what we can do with this. What's under here? What does this property look like? And so sometimes you just have to learn how to find the right property that way and make a deal come together that normally wouldn't normally work.
Well, I mean, you did in that specific case, as you're talking about. I mean, you were in the driver's seat there, and you weren't representing the buyer. You were
representing the seller.
You were representing the seller, and you were out there really trying to find those buyers, which would be a traditional buyer's agent's, role. A very active approach to solving the problem, getting the best yield. And so getting the best yield for your seller, but also giving the buyer the best terms possible. So really at the end of that, everybody walked away a winner.
Absolutely. And without being able to find the right financing at the right rates to make the deal make sense for the buyer, that's where it really comes together, because it turned a piece of property that was a failing supplier for Chinese food, for Asian food. It was a food market, and they had really lost a lot of business, and so they weren't doing well. And we took that property and created a deal that's going to employ 30, 40 people, and then some to actually bring jobs, to the market. So this is where entrepreneurs really make a difference is we create deals that create jobs and improve our community in that way.
The modern day turning the lead into gold, right? I mean, that's what the entrepreneur does. And there's so much to that we can unpack, because there's so much value. Cause we talk about, we live in a world today where it seems like everything is me, 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 me. I call it meliocentric, right? The world revolves around me, my phone, my comfort, my convenience, and all that. But really, to be successful, what you're saying is you took the outward approach and like, hey, let's look at this scenario, this solution, this problem that's been put in my lap, this opportunity. How can we solve this problem and benefit the most people, so that when everyone walks away, it's so much better? So you literally are turning dirt into something special, lead into gold, that you can feel good about that, right?
Absolutely. And for instance, the buyer in this particular case already had like a third of the warehouse already rented. So he was walking in with a positive cash flow to begin with. And the people that had the failing business, they were able to get out and become whole and not have this weight dragging on them. And so it truly was win-win for each party.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. You have told me that you really recently been also digging into a really interesting kind of niche area, something around the idea of use of historical homes and the utilization of tax credits and things like that.
Tax credits.
Talk to us about that a little bit.
Well, there's great opportunities in industrial properties or other properties that have been vacant.
Mm.
And if they're older than 50 years old, there may be federal and state tax credits available on some of these older buildings. And what the government does is they allow you basically a credit in order to refurbish or bring that building, up to snuff. And so you can find maybe a $10 million building, and maybe you put down 10%, maybe put down $1 million, right? And maybe you've got $3 million, $4 million in tax credits that you can sell readily to put back into that building to maybe convert it to apartments, retail space, office space, whatever you're trying to do. And if we can find those buildings, those are like great opportunities where you can maximize your return by taking advantage of these credits. I know, and the thing is that different states have different credits. So
Mhm.
for instance, right now, North Carolina has a number of old textile mills that they're trying to do something with, and they're in towns that are struggling economically. And so they've offered, just the state has offered a 40% tax credit on a mill that's been vacant for 2 years for anybody who wants to buy it. And these are tax credits that can be real dollars that you can sell and flip that money, so you can own the property with essentially no money down. You're selling those tax credits immediately to recover the down payment, and you've got money to spare to refurbish the building.
Wow. Wow, that's fascinating. And so the tax credits are available to sell sort of on the secondary
Oh,
market? Mhm.
certain buildings, yep, yep. And people are looking for these all the time.
Do you and I go and I'm sure it varies state by state, but and even maybe locality by locality, but are there certain sort of restricted uses or requirements on the buildings when you take them over?
No,
Or
you want to maintain. They want you to maintain the historic nature. They don't want you to just tear it down. So they
okay.
want you to maintain the historic nature. But you can go in and deck the entire inside and usually change it. So a lot of them are being turned into apartment buildings, multi family units. And what's nice about those is, even if it's the first floor becomes something else, or the second, and whatever floors become apartments,
Mhm.
those properties always have some kind of market value. They're always liquid. You can always sell those pretty readily in the market these days.
Yeah.
Because people who are buying, institutional buyers want these apartments. And so it's not a bad deal to get into if you get into the right price.
Right. Right. So and they're and they've done that quite extensively in like the downtown Norfolk area, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's fascinating. Absolutely. It's just amazing how many opportunities are out there when you know which rocks to turn over, right?
Yeah. That's exactly right. Oh, it's hard to turn over the rock and you go, what's this?
So if I'm an entrepreneur and I have some money to invest and I'm looking for a building or whatnot, that I'm looking for somebody that is very creative and that can turn over those rocks because that's where the value is, right?
Absolutely.
I mean,
Yes.
paying list price for something that, once the lipstick is on the pig, as they say, right, and it's all dressed up, then
Correct.
there's no benefit there, right? Paying full retail is never a good idea.
No, absolutely not. Although there is an argument to be made. I mean, I've got a friend of mine who's done a beautiful business, and the the owners of his apartment, or not apartment, but his building, aren't all that excited to sell, right?
Mm.
So should he or should he not try to pay a premium on that property? I would say if you can afford to pay the premium on the property and you're still making money with your business, I do it because you're still getting on the escalator and it's still going up. So for this particular individual, it's a great piece of property. And so in that case, I'd say, why not pay the premium?
Yeah.
If they really want the premium and it makes sense to your business, go ahead and do it. It doesn't hurt. You're getting on an escalator, you're going up, you're already there as a business. Go ahead and approach the owner and let's see what we can do.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of owners and, what do they call it? The silver wave that are getting to the point where they want to punch out. You
Yep.
know, we do a lot of business acquisition and we see that a lot, particularly after COVID. They're like, I don't really at this point want to dig in and, potentially an economy that's slowing that, I don't know if I want to dig through that. So I'm going to sell. And I will say this, that from a financial standpoint, business is much more valuable if there's real estate involved. And it certainly opens up the financing options,
Yeah.
exponentially than if you're just selling a business, in goodwill and cash flow.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. With a lease.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
those are hard businesses to sell. And I've seen people trying to do those all the time. I've had people approach me and they didn't even have a lease. They were month to month. What do you
Yeah.
what-
Yeah. It's like, I'm going to sell my business for $8 million. It's
what-
like, okay.
you don't even have a lease, Uh,
Right.
so yeah, that becomes a challenge. No, the real estate really does help. If you've got the piece of real estate and your business is operating in there, that's a great sweet spot on many levels.
Yeah.
But, and like I said, even if it's so, can you find deals? Yeah, yeah. Let's go find a deal, and you'll move your business
Mhm.
and have that expense. So that does work, but it doesn't always hurt to pay a premium on the property that you're already in, that you're already occupying, if it makes sense. So
Well, I have a client right now that's doing exactly that. He has a restaurant here in town and he's had the restaurant in that one location. He's got multiple locations. He's been in this one building for about 8 or 9 years. Had a fire in the kitchen. So about 4 years ago, was able to renovate the kitchen. So he built the kitchen out exactly the way he wants it. And then out of the blue, the owner of the building approached him 3 or 4 months ago and said, hey, we're going to sell the building and we're going to give you first right of refusal. And here's the appraisal. Here's what the building is worth, but I want more than I want more than that. And so my client agreed to his price because the premium that he's paying for this property, to your point, is well worth it for his business. He's got the client base, they know where he is, he's local in the neighborhood, he's got the kitchen exactly the way he wants it. The cost of moving, the cost of, putting together the new kitchen exactly the way he wants it, and then perhaps what percentage of clients is he going to lose by moving, 3 miles down the road, or
20%.
could be, yeah, 20%. So that cost is, we don't even know what that number is going to be, right? So at least with the premium, there's a known figure that he's like, okay, I'll pay that price, which is in his mind an investment because again, he's now got real estate. He's positioned this business at maybe 5 or 10 years to sell it. And so at that point, he'll have the business pay the building paid down substantially, if not paid off. But he owns it. He can make these improvements. He can do what he wants, and he doesn't have to relocate. So yeah, so it does make a lot of sense.
Yeah, it really does. And a lot of people are in these buildings that the owners don't necessarily want to sell. And so, but a lot of the owners don't always know what the true value in the building. So we can usually get that property if you approach them just the right way. You got to learn how to approach that owner that doesn't know they want to sell yet. You got to approach them the right way. And if you're their tenant and you want to approach them, it doesn't always work. But it's really better to have that third party come to them and say, hey, I've got a potential buyer for the building.
Yeah.
Like discuss it with you. And, they'll say, oh, I'm not interested. And they'll say, well, listen, everybody has a price. What makes sense for you to sell? Because, my buyer is very interested. And so then you can begin the makings of a deal.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, that third party, just separation.
Hard to do it on your own. If you're the tenant, it's hard to do it. Your restaurant guy was lucky that the owner A wanted to sell and B gave him first right of refusal. But because a lot of owners don't want to sell, they don't have a huge incentive to sell unless you give it to them. And that's where that extra dollars can come in. But like we said, it sometimes it's really worth it. So
Yeah. Well, and I think it's one of the things that I know that you add value to. That I've just, working with you, known you for so many years, is that I've seen it, and our mutual clients tell me all the time is that your ability to negotiate. I mean, you've been in a lot of places, from, like you said, city council to, expanding your own business to 7 locations, negotiating on multi-million-dollar lines of credit with banks and, all of that. that skill, I mean, you can take a class, when you fly, they always promote that, but a class and a book is not the same as actually having it. And to be able to do that can really turn a deal from marginal, if not good, to exceptional if it's done
Right.
well.
Exactly. And it makes it a win-win on all sides because negotiating, I think, still needs to be a win-win for everybody. And those are your best negotiations. But sometimes it's just finding creative ways to do things, and that's where you sometimes just have to be creative. Sometimes there's lease back, we'll sell it, but we need to lease it back for a certain period of time, or we'll lease it with the 3 months for the option to buy, whatever that whatever needs to happen to bring that commitment. But sometimes it involves zoning, sometimes it involves there's just a lot of things that can come into making the deal. And one of the nice things, having been on council, is working with zoning commissions and knowing who you need to talk to get to at the local level. Sometimes, we were just talking the other day, I think, and that if you want to do certain jet deals in Chesapeake, and there's certain people that you need to talk to and get their approval and maybe get their involvement.
Yeah.
So just to know who that is and how things work.
Right.
So yeah, my little foray into politics and into council definitely helped me.
It all adds up, man. It all adds up. Experience over time, and you've had a lot of really awesome ones. So we're coming on to the end here. I don't want to go past our 30 minutes. Tell our listeners how they can get up with you if they have, a thought on, hey, I want to buy a building. I'm interested in commercial real estate, or hey, maybe I'm an entrepreneur, a business owner. I'm looking to acquire that next home or a home on the water. How do they get up with you?
Oh, well, my email is david@davidnygaard.com, which I'm sure we'll put into the comments here.
Yeah.
My phone number is 757-333-4033. And so call or write, either way is great. My website is David Nygaard Properties. That's more geared towards the residential side, but so that will get you more to the residential side. But those are the 3 best ways. But probably I'd say the best way is give me a call and let's have a conversation. You can't really get very far until you can have that conversation. And sometimes just sitting over coffee, sitting like what we're doing here, just saying, hey, let's explore the options, going from there. So david@davidnygaard.com is the email. 757-333-4033 is the phone number.
That's awesome, David. Yeah, we will definitely have that in the show notes. So it'll be easy to click and find. And I would say absolutely, if you have a need or desire, definitely reach out to David. He's a great guy. You have a great time, a great conversation. And more importantly, if there's something there that makes sense for you, he can help you figure it out and put it together. So David, thanks for this time today. It's been awesome. I've really enjoyed this.
Thanks, me too.
Let's do it again.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, buddy.
Bye.
Bye.